let's talk about display devices. In other words, monitors. Now, I have multiple monitors on my machine right now because I've got a writing tablet and I have my my monitor, my screen in front of me. Let's see where some of those settings are. I'm going to go down here to Start and then up to Settings, and it's under System. Well, I went a little too far here. Under System and then under Display. And here you can see my two monitors, and I can switch these. Right now they're set to extend. In other words, if I move my cursor off the screen, it goes onto the other monitor. You probably can't see that on the video, but then if I move it back again, it comes back to this one. Well, which one is 1 and which one is 2? So let's take a look. My main monitor is 2. So that's going to be over on this side, and then as I move my cursor off to this edge, it'll go on to the other monitor. And that's what the identify thing does here. If I had a third monitor, I could click this and detect it, but I don't. Right now, I'm set up to extend these displays. Now, typically, when I use this tablet, I click Duplicate Displays. Now, it's going to take a moment for this thing to kick in here. But once it does, you'll see now that both of these show up here. And if I click Identify, it just shows, well, both of them, because they're the same. I'm duplicating the display. And if I'm writing on the tablet, typically, of course, I would want it duplicated. And I could also choose to show only on 1, only on 2. Now, under Advanced Display Settings here, I also have some capability of setting individual settings for these two displays, and I can change those properties for the individual displays if I want to. So they have different resolutions, for example. Under Color here is something called the Nightlight. Now, right now my Nightlight is on, but it's, in other words, the functionality is on, but it's off until 9 o'clock, and that's because of the settings that I have for it. So I have settings, set hours at 9 p.m. It'll sort of dim and take away the blue in my screen, and then back at 7 o'clock it'll take it out. The reason for this is that some studies have shown that the blue color in the screen keeps people awake, and so now you can turn this thing on if you want to take the blue out while you're sleeping. We also have HD color, but I do not have an HDR capable monitor on this machine right now, so I don't have any settings there. Down here we have some other settings though. This one with regard to display resolution. Now you want to set the display resolution to whatever the resolution is of the monitor that you're using. We used to use this to change the size of everything, and if I move down here to a different size, you'll see that everything is going to, I'll say revert, everything is going to get bigger, and then when I revert, everything gets smaller again. We don't really use that anymore. We now have this scaling, which is really cool. If I say 150%, you'll notice everything gets bigger on my screen. It will in a moment anyway, as soon as all this kicks in. Has to redraw everything. And even on my desktop, it's still redrawing, so give it a moment. You notice this thing, there we go, everything kicked in. Even on my desktop, everything's going to be really big here until I set that back again. I'm going to set it back to 100%, and it's going to go through those same exercises to redraw everything and set everything back down again. So this is now what we use. If we want to change the size, say you have somebody with vision problems, you could change that scaling to make everything bigger to make it easier for them to use. Landscape or portrait, obviously, if I have a vertical screen, horizontal screen, tablets and so forth, and then I can even invert those and flip them around, so left becomes right, right becomes left, and so on. So these are the options I have then for scaling in my display. Interestingly enough, in the control panel, the display stuff is gone. It has completely been moved over to the settings app. So it is no longer in the control panel. I do have a couple of options over here. If I have brightness, and I do not have brightness, by the way, because I have multiple monitors. If I only have one monitor set up, I have a brightness setting here. And I would also have a brightness setting here, which if I click would go from 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100 brightness. I can turn the nightlight on and off here also. So I do have a few display settings over here. This is the action center that we talked about early on. All right, that's pretty much it for display. And we have one more section now in this section. It's still trying to switch back from the large screen. And that will be down here on speakers and microphones, and then we'll be done for this week.